Hi, and welcome again to this latest episode of the Plata Ward 4 Update Podcast. This is David Jenkins, the Plata Town Council member from Ward 4, and your host for this podcast and my associated videos, now available on YouTube and YouTube Music. In this episode and later ones, I will provide information as part of our preparation for our fiscal year 2026 budget, which includes operating budget, the enterprise budget, which is water, sewer, trash, sanitation, and stormwater management, and our capital improvement plan, our CIP. But first, let's start with some basic information about definitions, the hearing process on our meeting schedule, and other basic information about our current budget. So, the Town Council just recently passed and has published our Town Council meeting day, has published the calendar of events for the preparation and the adoption of our town fiscal year 2026 fiscal plan or budget. I would call it a budget. So you can begin to see in January, the town will start preparing, the staff will preparing, give information out to the department heads. Then they have to get back to the finance director and the town manager. And then eventually they'll meet again to finalize the operating draft. And then hopefully by February 21st, a proposed operating budget will be given to our newly formed finance committee for their review, comments, and recommendation. Their feedback is due back to the town manager and the treasurer by March the 5th. Then in March 11th of 2025, hard to believe, isn't it? That information, that draft operating budget will be submitted to us, the Town Council. Then we'll begin to have a chance to review and provide our comments at our first meeting on the new budget, proposed budget, on March the 18th. Then we'll follow up a week later on March 25th with our enterprise funds, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Then in late March, there will be publication of the required public hearings for tax rate, the fee schedule, as well as an actual publication for the public hearing on the actual budget. They call it financial plan, it's really the budget. And then on April the 8th, we will actually have the public hearing on the tax rate, the fee schedule changes, if any, and then an ordinance for the tax rate. So again, March 28th, we have to give advance notice. Hopefully this year we'll do a better job of just putting it in the paper, and hopefully we'll put information on the website. But regardless, I will follow up this podcast and video with additional information as information is provided to me as a member of the Town Council, and I'll share that with a number of brief podcasts and videos so you can walk through the process with me. Then finally, at the end of April 22nd, we would have a meeting to hopefully adopt the fee schedule and the actual budget. We'll have to see. And the reason why we're doing that is because it's a little different this year, because obviously we need to adopt this by June, because it takes effect July 1st of 2025. But it's more important this year because in May of 2025, we'll have a new town council. We could have a whole new, or we'll have a different town council with different members. So they're going to be inheriting the town budget that the current council, will adopt in April. So we want to be fair and judicial and upfront prior to the new council inheriting this proposed fiscal 2026 budget. So this particular slide just provides some basic definitions of what the general fund is. Basically, it's operating fund for all the governmental activities. Operating expenses, that is, those are the expenses the town incurs during a fiscal year. Enterprise funds, and I'll explain that with a graph in a moment, are those funds where they're basically user funds for our water, sewer, you see sanitation, trash, sewer, water, and the stormwater management. the tax base, that is the aggregate of all the all the assessed value of all property within the town, which is assessed by the state of Maryland. They do that once every 3 years. So the current rate is 32 cents per $100 of real property assessed valuations. This is an old definition that was increased last year from 32 cents to 35 cents. Fiscal year, again, basic definition. It's the same as the state and the county. Our fiscal year starts July 1st of 2025 and then would run through to June 30th, 2026. Our capital improvements plan, commonly known as a CIP, it's a long-term, in this case, 5 to 6 year view of any physical and technological improvements that the county is funding, and it's in the project listed. And I'll show you a copy of our current fiscal year, which is 2025 CIP. This next slide, well, no, I went too fast on that one, didn't I? Let me go back. So I want to go back and show you again the basics of this graphic. Shows what the general fund includes, which is again general government, which is administrative, legislative, all the our basic departments. Public safety includes the police, emergency preparedness, inspection and code enforcement, and then public works, all the public works activities, and then parks, recreation, maintenance, and other community promotions. On the enterprise funds, as I mentioned earlier, this is the user generated. It's paid for by user fees, what we all pay for sanitation, which is trash and recycling. The sewer fund collection, the conveyance system, and the treatment of sewage and the disposal. And water, that is all the systems associated with water. And then we have a stormwater management fund. So that's what I mean, and you'll see it earlier by referring to enterprise funds. This next slide, again, to the current budget, this is our revenue by sources. And you can see the largest, obviously, is by local taxes and other miscellaneous activities, or in terms of fund balance, transfers, licenses, miscellaneous, and other service charges. So we're very dependent on taxes, as most jurisdictions are. This next one just shows then not only the general revenue fund by type, but more importantly, this bottom chart, pie chart, shows the budgeted expenditures by function. So you can see general government, public safety, which is a lot, which is police and inspection, which as people have pointed out before, is 38% of the total expenditures in our budget, our current budget, FY25, and then parks and recreations and other activities. So it kind of gives you a snapshot, and all this information is in our current budget document, and I'll provide a link to the PDF of this particular budget. It's also on our town webpage. But I wanted to also give you a good overview of what is actually in the budget, or the budget document. And I'm going to use public safety, in this case the police department. So each department or function will have an activity, what it is, police department, and the function, in this case public safety, gives a brief description of that department. It talks about the fiscal goals they're trying to achieve. On this next page over here, you'll see the personnel and how they're allocated by the FY23 budget, FY24, and the current budget was FY25. So you can see we've had an increase in staff, and then total civilian. So you see total sworn officers and then total civilian. So you see we've gone to 32 total. But an important indicator is what each department spends, workload and performance indicators. So you can see here we have expenditures per capita or per person by fiscal year as far back as 2018 to the current fiscal year 23, and then the percent of town expenditures. So we've hovered around anywhere from 36 to 39% up until FY23. So that kind of gives you an idea of each department. Some additional information, and this is important here, you can get this information here that I'm highlighting, is some crime statistics by fiscal year, again from FY18 to FY23. And you can see the categories, and then it defines them as part one crime, and the source of the information is FBI. And then it also talks about calls for service. You can get an idea of what that is. And then in this instance, it gives, in the current budget, FY25, it gives what the changes were from the prior budget. And then you can see here the fiscal year budgets for the police department as far back as 2020 up until the adopted one that we're currently under in terms of FY25, and the variances and the difference each year. And then it's just a graph, a bar graph that shows that. So each department in the budget document has this information. So it does provide a wealth of information as to the how and why and what goes into preparing the budget. This next slide is going to be a series of slides. It may be tough to read, but again, I'm going to give you a link to all this information. Is the proposed FY25 Capital Improvements Plan, CIP, by fiscal year. So it goes out 6 years. So here's 2026, and you can see the projects, estimated costs, the fund, the department, location, funding source, which is important, and the budget, a brief description and the impact on the budget. So you can see here we have FY26, these projects here. I will go to the next page for FY27, which is here. Again, the same kind of breakout. And then FY 2028, and then FY 2029. So it's basically a 1 year, current year fiscal, then it goes out 4 years. So this is FY 2029. So we will go back, we will go back during this budget process and update the information for proposed for 2026, and then we'll go out 4 to 5 years. So there'll be a whole new, so it cycles through, and it's changed each year based upon funding sources, grants, and of course economic conditions change. And then, so that's very frankly a very brief overview of our current budget and what goes into it, and some of the detailed information you can find in the actual budget document. So I just wanted to provide that to you as we begin our budget process. So let me go back again and look at the calendar. So our first time hack will be early January 2025. So our finance director, the town manager, will prepare an initial overview. Well, first we'll get an overview of the current budget and where we stand. And then they'll do an estimate for 2026. So that's the first kind of a time hack. But the important thing that I'd like for y'all to remember, and like I said, I will provide follow-on podcasts and videos for each activity. Once it's made public, I will get that out to you. Because again, we probably need to do a much better job this year than keeping you informed and being very transparent about the budget process. So, and again, what's something new this year is that, again, we have a finance committee. It's allocated to have 5 members. We have 3 so far, so that's good. So we're going to get input from those individuals that we've selected and approved to be on the finance committee. And I'll give you a link to that committee and what their charge is. But that gives us an additional eyes and ears and expertise about the budget. But again, especially want to make sure that you, the residents, have this information so it's transparent, and then you have the ability to understand it, and as well as ask questions, and hopefully you can attend the hearings and be involved in the process. We need to do a much better job. So with that, I'm going to close out this particular episode on the preparation of the FY 2026 town budget. As always, I appreciate you listening and watching.
If you have questions, comments, please email me at djenkins@townoflaplata.org. I'm preparing this on December the 16th, so I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you have a great Christmas season. Stay safe and stay warm. Thank you.